To those of you who are responsible for scrubbing through security footage, what's the weirdest, funniest, oddest, creepiest, or most interesting thing you've caught someone doing on camera? I work as a busser at a pretty nice sushi restaurant. We used to have another worker who was referred to as Shithead Busser by the rest of the staff. Anyway, one day Shithead Busser arrives at work and sees someone trying to break into a car. He proceeds to break the window for them, then put on his apron and go into work. The whole thing is on video surveillance. He lost his job. I worked surveillance for a casino for a few years. I've seen people having sex in vehicles. An unbelievable amount of people that sift through cigarette butts and smoke any that have anything left. More saps than I knew existed. People lose. All the time. Win. Hardly ever. Exorbitant amounts of money. One of the strangest was a woman being escorted out by friends. Seemingly outrageously drunk. It was summer, so they put her in the car, presumably to pass out, while they continued to gamble. She left the car, rifled through 4 other cars leaving things along her journey, and then left when someone came and picked her up. Police were involved. The lady was found within a few days. Turns out that she had been to the doctor, had been prescribed a medication and completely blacked out from it. No alcohol was consumed and she had no recollection of 3 days that had passed. When confronted, she burst into tears and immediately offered to pay for whatever she took. I didn't see it, but I was working when it happened. I see our security guy running through the back hallway at our grocery store. I ask if he needs help and he replies, only if you wanna see an old man jacking off in the frozen food aisle. I used to be a claims adjuster for mostly slip and fall cases. I was reviewing a tape of an alleged slip and fall at a grocery store. The woman walked into the middle of an aisle, picked up a wet floor sign and hid it in another aisle. She then screamed loudly, no audio on tape though, and then waited a few seconds before lying on the ground. When someone came to help her, she dramatically kicked her legs, causing her body to rotate around in a circle like a child throwing a hissy fit. Then her accomplice came over to help her and dramatically pretended to slip all over the place like a cartoon character. I wish I had a copy of that to give to the internets. I am responsible for watching the CCTV at one of Australia's largest airports. People do amazing things. I once watched a man drop his pants and take a crap at a packed baggage carousel, to the disgust of everyone standing around him. People always walk into glass doors. I watched a woman nosedive down a 12-step set of stairs, completely missed every stair and face planted at the bottom. This guy thought he was by himself one day in an empty part of the airport. He began to strip down to his bare ass and slide across the leather chairs completely nude. I love watching people when they think they are alone. Last time I go naked chair surfing in Australia. I used to manage a cell phone store and a pee-off customer went to storm out of the store, but an extremely clean window impeded his exit. He slammed into it, face first, turned around, shook his fist like an old man and left, and we must have watched it 200 times. Even our regional VP couldn't help but laugh. CCTV of the drive-through lane at McDonald's. A guy stark naked at 2 AM doing press-ups. Best part? He was a member of staff and had called in sick earlier that evening. He was supposed to be working there and then. Drugs do amazing things. Used to work at a smoothie shop similar to Jamba Juice but with more supplements. Make this guy a $9 freaking smoothie with wheatgrass, oats, protein powder and weight gainer. Ridiculous but whatever. He pays and turns to leave with his phone in his hand. Have a nice day. The next person to come in says there's something all over the window. It's the mega calorie deluxe I just made. Go back to check the security cam. This dude walked right into the window next to the door, smashed his smoothie, turned to see if anyone saw, then just booked it. We watched it over and over every day for a week and it never got old. It was a big controversy when we found out someone deleted the video. Never saw bro health nut again. I told her light on the fricking wheatgrass. Splash. My dad works in a big supermarket, and he used to leave me with the guy who's responsible for the safety there. One time he showed me a video of an old man taking a dump in the fitting room. The look on the 12-year-old boy who was the unfortunate next one in line for the fitting room was priceless. I worked at a burglar alarm place. At about 2:30 AM, a couple of Hispanic guys broke into a Mexican taqueria and began making themselves tacos. Police responded in 13 minutes, the owner showed up a few minutes later. The guys didn't speak any English and the cops didn't speak Spanish. They kept saying trabajo, which means work or job, and I knew that much to translate for the cops. The owner said don't arrest them until I get down there, I might know who it is. By the time the owner showed up, the guy had made tacos for the cops and his buddy. The owner, having to show up at 3 AM, was a bit weirded out, but he ate one too. Finally he calls in and says, I don't know these guys. This is my wife's restaurant and she doesn't know them either. I offered this guy a job though. Those tacos were good. Their plan succeeded. A good taco is a great legal defense. When I was 16 and working at a fast food place, one of my managers had all of her shifts covered for 2 weeks. I figured she got pretty sick or had a death in her family. The next day I walked into the office to see our area manager and regional manager watching security footage. So I walked up behind them to see what it was. It was our manager getting beaten savagely by her crazy roided up boyfriend. He dragged her from the office out to the back car park by her hair, before slamming her head in the door of his car. After a worker at our store stopped him from abducting her, I walked out of the office and never said a word. I was laughing at all the stories until now. Crap, that's awful. Our staff had someone make a lunch run to Wendy's. One of the girls was stuck on a phone call, so they put her sandwich in the break room refrigerator. About a half hour later, she walks into the break room, takes the bag out of the refrigerator, throws the entire bag into the microwave, and hits the start button, forgetting that Wendy's wraps their burgers in foil. The foil starts sparking, which sets the bag on fire. She rips open the door to the microwave, grabs the bag, and can't decide what to do with it. She runs 3 entire laps around the break room while shrieking and juggling a paper bag that has 3-foot flames shooting out of the top. She finally has the presence of mind to throw it into the sink and run water over it. Once word got out, we had people coming into the control room all day to see the footage. TLDR receptionist sets lunch bag on fire in microwave, decides to run around the room with it. Joe McCarthy, Richard Nixon, Studebaker, television, North Korea, South Korea, Marilyn Monroe, receptionist started the fire. It wasn't really security, but it was CCTV for the flight deck of an aircraft carrier. I saw some guy jacking it in the middle of the flight deck, just standing there whipping it out about midnight. I'm not sure if he needed to do it to keep awake or if he was turned on by the oil atolls and stars. I have a new dream in life. That's the most goddamn American thing I've ever heard. I worked at a water park one summer, and at the turnstiles when you come in you had to have your bag checked by security before you could come in and pay. So this one Indian family of about 15 kids, 2 grandparents and 9 adults, helps the elderly in first, and then one of the parents gets their bag checked as a distraction while the entire rest of the family rushes the gates. On camera you see all of the kids and adults running past the security guard with lawn chairs, bags, towels, and an umbrella. They then thought it was smart to split up. By then I came out of the security office and saw half of them running into our wave pool, still fully clothed, shoes and all, and the other half trying to make a break for the picnic area. TLDR. Indian family rushes the security gates at a local water park. For my first job, I worked at a small, local gas station. One Tuesday afternoon, a large, bald man came into the store and bought us out of Rice Krispies treats. Then, he proceeded to go to his car, put on a large fur coat, come back into the store, go into the big beer fridge in the back, and build a large castle out of the treats. He hid inside and refused to leave at closing. The footage was used a few years later to allow him to plead insanity in another case. The long con. Alright, my time to shine. I was a security guard at a large retail chain for a few years, and I saw some things. One of the worst was this one guy. I saw him coming into the store multiple days in a row, never buying anything, never really leaving with anything, so I started to wonder what the heck he was doing. I began to follow him on camera, and the first couple times I followed him, there was nothing special. Then one day, it all made sense. I saw him come into the store and immediately went to the security office to track him. I followed him to the toys section where he slowly walked up to this old lady, 65-70 years old, kind of fat, and he knelt down behind her, took his camera phone and stuck it under her dress and took a picture. I called the cops who came and arrested him and found many more pictures on his phone. But man, I just felt bad for that lady. She didn't even know what had happened until we told her. My substitute teacher in high school worked at Ontario Place as a security guard and watched a swan break a burglar's leg and attack him as he tried to escape. Oh Canada. There's two. Both are of the same coworker. This was on our old analog DVR. The first is of our coworker cleaning out one of the work fridges. He found a jug of milk that had expired. He brings it to the counter near the sink and goes to open it. At this point you can clearly see the jug is swelled so much that there is no space left between the handle and the main part. Now he hesitates before opening the jug. He puts it in the sink. It's clearly a bit of a struggle to get the cap off. Then it comes free and a fountain of rotten milk gushes up. All over him, his face, his shirt, the entire kitchen. Poor bastard. The next was a simple nut shot when he was trying to pry the lid off a container. Not complicated, but facing the camera and in full view. Tragically both clips were lost when that DVR died as we were trying to burn the clips to disk. Alas, alas. This is more about my story on camera. My manager, who runs the restaurant I work at, accidentally left his notebook at the bar and my coworker looked at it. With an astonished look on her face, she explained to me that the manager watches us on the camera and anytime we do something against the rules he would write it down. Catches, he shouldn't have had access to any of the cameras. I was fairly new to the business so my name was only in there once. Stubble, 10:35 am. Drinks glass of milk. We were pee that he was wasting time and invading our privacy concerning himself with petty little rules. So the next day at 10:35 I poured myself a glass of milk, had a seat at the bar, stared into the camera, drank it, and then flipped off the camera. I knew it would horribly pee him off, but he couldn't fire me for doing it because he'd have to go the big boss and tell him that he was wasting his own time accessing footage he should have never seen. TLDR. I drank a rebellious glass of milk and gave the camera the finger. I bet that milk tasted like justice. I work on a hospital unit that has a large amount of security cameras. One day, myself along with at least 4 other staff members witnessed one of our nurses walk off the unit, over to our meal cart, full of eaten trays, and proceed to eat from the scraps. She was stuffing food into her mouth and her pockets. Later on, she was complaining about not having eaten anything all day. I haven't got my hands on the footage yet, but a friend of the family owns a jewelry shop. The guy's wife is tending it while he is in the back sorting out stock. Robber walks in, starts waving a gun around. Husband, without giving a single frick, jumps over the stock room to defend his wife and his shop and lands a knockout punch. He towers over almost everyone. The rest of the footage is a half-hour reel of the robber waking up and getting knocked out by the husband, repeatedly, again and again, until the police arrive. I would pay more money to see this than I paid to see Transformers. I remember a similar thread a few months ago where someone was a security guard for a building and would go patrol the perimeter watch tapes. He said that he went out walking and when he got back to his post he noticed someone in an area he had just walked through and wound the tape back. The man was lurking near him the whole time he was in that area, following him from a distance and just watching. I haven't found anything really creepy or disgusting, but I saw one of our elderly housekeeping staff do the Dougie for like 2 minutes once. Probably against some kind of policy, but I clipped like 30 seconds from it and set it to the music. Right proper. You must provide proof. Probably when our employee decided to fall through our tenant's ceiling James Bond style when he was trying to break in to steal narcotics from their locked sharps cabinet. A camera was motion activated, so all I saw was our employee falling 9 feet to the concrete floor, the successive thump and then watching him get up after 10 minutes and cleaning up the mess he made. Almost makes me miss that dumbass from time to time, until I remember that he tried to steal controlled substances from our tenant and almost nixed our contract with them. Frick that guy. I work at a grocery store and we have a video of this one manager going to pick up what he assumed was a chocolate bar turned out to be a turd in the middle of the sales floor. When looking farther back we find a video of an old guy slowly bends down, shakes his pants and lets the turd roll onto the floor and walks away. The store director then looked up his membership card, found his address and sent him a coupon for free box of Depends. That's a classy way to say we know you crap your pants. I work at a gym, and we had a recording of an individual doing standing side lateral raises. On the 6th-7th rep this individual went down too quickly and slammed his dong in between the dumbbells. The moment he struck his dong he immediately fell. After a few seconds he wakes up and walks over to the counter, pants covered in blood. Needless to say the ambulance was called, and we had watched that video at least 100 times. Sadly it was deleted. My penis has retracted in horror. There, Johnson. Everything is fine. I once watched a client, mental health, write out what he wanted served as options for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, in his own poo. This lasted around 20 minutes and was not his first poo manifesto. I guess this guy really does have a crap list. I was the general manager of a restaurant with security cameras. One day I was in my office watching the cameras when I see a human body out of nowhere eat it face first onto the concrete in our loading bay. Fell from off screen, landed in camera view. The body didn't move for a good 5 seconds and I booked it out back to make sure whoever it was wasn't dead. When I got out back I discovered it was one of my cooks who was now waking from his stupor. He had been smoking a cigarette leaning against a wall, fainted, and annihilated his teeth on the asphalt. Nothing was left of his mouth except jagged spikes and gaps. I'd conservatively say 10 teeth lost. I only found 3 whole ones. He had no memory of the fall and we assumed he had momentarily asphyxiated. Exhaustion and dehydration and smoking and standing equals faint. His nickname from that day forward was Jaws. I worked in the security department of a hotel for a few months. Best thing I've seen on camera. A drunk couple come to the front desk at around midnight and asks the front desk clerk for a room. He declines, as our hotel policy doesn't allow us to take walk-in rooms after 9 PM. The guy stands there for 15 minutes arguing with him, trying to get him to change his mind, but to no avail. Finally, the lady has had enough, charges forward and yells out, "Maybe this will convince you," and lifts up her shirt and full on flashes the front desk employee. No bruh, just huge, fake boobs. They still weren't able to get a room for the night. Funniest, a mentally challenged male stood in front of the video camera. When he realized he could see himself on the screen above him, he started checking himself out. He lifted up his shirt to see his extremely large belly. He made a disappointed face and sucked in his stomach. His face changed from disappointed to proud. It was an adorable moment really. Cartons of cigarettes kept coming up missing from the store I work at. They are kept behind the counter so all signs pointed towards it being an employee. My boss watched all surveillance tapes from days they went missing and after weeks of not finding anything realized a teenage boy would army crawl around the counter while his friend directed the cashier's attention away. It was so sly and well planned. They probably stole over 20 cartons before they were caught. But they were caught. Dang hooligans. I had a job reviewing hidden footage of a pasta production line as a teenager. I watched hours and hours of black and white video at 8x speed trying to identify a person sabotaging the product. Many interesting things were witnessed. The funniest, a midget Italian mechanic who had a classic stereotypical mustache worked in the plant. In one video he was servicing a machine, and one of the big old Italian ladies who worked the machine sneaks up behind him with one of the giant cardboard boxes they packed the pasta in. You can see the other ladies watching her and trying to hold back their laughter. Of course she drops the box on top of him and then holds it down. There was no sound but you can see all the women laughing like crazy while the first woman holds the box down. You could actually see the sides of the box moving as he struggled inside. They left him in the box for a while. I think it was a few minutes, and when he finally was let out the first thing he did was try to slap the woman who had put the box over him. He actually ran up to her and jumped and swung his hand fist and she just stepped away and laughed more. Then he proceeded to run around the room jumping and trying to slap all the woman and completely failing repeatedly. I swear he looked so damned much like Super Mario without the mushroom. I still laugh when I think about it. This was years ago. When I worked in retail, I had a job where the whole team just got on great, gelled very well. My manager was super easygoing and always had a laugh with the staff. One day he had bought a pellet gun BB gun and come into the back room and shot me in the leg while also trying to avoid the camera, which was just above the door to the back room. This was all in good fun, and watching me wail and flap like a chicken in the wind trying to avoid the pellet provided hours of enjoyment for the staff. I had requested the weekend off one time and was swiftly told no despite being told I could a few weeks prior. I don't know what possessed me to check it, probably a quiet day and was having lunch. So I decided to just look through the video to watch it and have a laugh at myself when I noticed at the very bottom of the screen my boss shooting me with the BB gun. It was just his head and the gun pointing at me, but you could tell it was him. We all knew this was a plastic piece of crap, but the camera makes it look like some serious badass gun. I took a screenshot and circled him in the picture and left it in the office. I got the weekend off. His reaction will be burned into my mind forever. It's all fun and games until you get in between a man and his vacation. Worked in the surveillance department. Old dirty men copping feels on local C-kids for a few dollars. People dealing drugs. Getting beat up. Handies. Yada yada. Funniest one was when a few of the cleaning staff were huffing cans of air duster and took turns passing out in the cleaning supply closet, like 4 or 5 times each. Then one went into a seizure and the other one tried stuffing him back into the closet. When I was 18, I was an assistant manager at a record store in a mall. One night, a guy carrying a shopping bag went through the sensors and set it off. I told the other employee to stay behind the counter. I asked the customer to stop, and he didn't. Our store was near an exit, and as soon as he hit the door, he ran. I chased after the guy while I speed dialed mall security and told them where I was and described who I was chasing. I ran after him until the bag broke and the merch spilled. The guy sprinted over a hill when security got there and I just took the bag. Unfortunately, the guy wasn't caught, but I recovered almost $500 of merch. Later that night, a friend from an anchor store who worked security asked, "Would you like to see the tape?" It was cool to see myself, a 5'3" tall girl 130 pounds, chasing a 6'4" 225 pounds dude. I also had a Batman shirt on, and was referred to as Batgirl after that. Till there are 18-year-old assistant managers out there. At 18 I could barely make it to school on time by myself. I used to work security in a large shopping center in Southern California. The memorable videos I have seen or found: a girl walking down the center of the mall, head down and texting, walk right into a rolled sign that was laying on the ground and fall face first. A mall security employee showing off for a hot chick at a store by patting down and searching a guest in the mall completely illegally, and managed to not get fired. Our boss was too nice to people. A seagull land in front of an external camera, look right into the camera, and peck at it several times. A woman walk into a clear glass pane right next to a sliding glass door. A rabbit commit suicide by jumping from the second floor down to the first, then watched it hop a few times and die from the impact a few seconds later. A guy attack a Macy's LP agent, and our security personnel helped tackle the dude and pepper spray him. An off-duty LA company sheriff sergeant get arrested by loss prevention agents for using his minor daughters to assist him in shoplifting from a high-end retailer. People getting pretty badly injured on escalators either by getting limbs stuck, shoes stuck, falling down them, falling up them, wheelchairs getting stuck. Guy with Parkinson's freeze up and fall over at the bottom. 2 off-duty cops get into a fight in the middle of the street after one accused the other one of bumping him with his car. Several vehicle hit and runs. Lots of police arresting people for various reasons. Few acts of vandalism to buildings or vehicles. Various fights inside of the mall between people. Ugh. I've seen some crap, man. A friend had a DUI case coupled with a fleeing, which is kind of boring. He gets the dashcam video, watches it, and we hear him losing his crap down the hall and brings everyone in to watch it. You see the white sedan pull over in a sketchy area, and the driver immediately bails to the left with cop chasing off camera. About a minute later, this humongous woman wearing booty shorts and a tank top walks into the middle of the street, and a guy walks up to her where they proceeded to kiss passionately for about 2 minutes. They slowly amble off in different directions, and 2 minutes later a dude comes out of nowhere at full tilt and leaps in the car and peels off, stealing DUI guy's car. 2 other cruisers show up and see the cruiser but no car. They ended up finding it in Atlanta almost a month later. Every job I've had has been night shift. It's just simpler and there's nobody you have to suck up to when it's just yourself. A few of them have been as security, and the one I have now is as a night auditor for a major hotel chain. One of my security jobs was at a hospital, and I had to go out and confront a kid that was 13 because he was jacking off in the ER waiting room at about 2 AM. The saddest thing so far though happened where I work now. There was a boys' Southern Baptist High School basketball team staying at the hotel, and around 1 AM I noticed 2 of them on the camera duck into the fitness room. Walked down there and found them all over each other, and as soon as they saw me they burst into tears begging me not to say anything because they would get kicked out of school and disowned by their parents. They were actually shaking. I told them not to worry, that I wouldn't say anything cause I also happen to be gay. Gave them a key for a room housekeeping hadn't made it to that day and told them they had an hour. What can I say, lol, I'm a big softie. AWH, bless your gay heart. Aside from seeing people fall off the treadmill or people lifting too much and either breaking a bone or messing up their muscles, the wildest thing I've seen at my gym was overnight when the gym is not staffed but it is still accessible. When a HS girl comes out of the women's locker room in just a towel, walks over to the free weight area, grabs 2 guys who are working out, and walks back into the locker room with said guys. That was an awkward conversation to have with her parents later that week. TL. DR. HS girl invited 2 guys to join her in the locker room. You forgot, dear penthouse. I work in a bank, and we have to review the security footage from the end of the previous day to the next morning. We're mainly checking to make sure the cameras work, as they pay someone more important to look for actual suspicious behavior. While I haven't seen anything particularly funny, there was footage from out ATM that showed a young man in the middle of the night. He appeared to be using the ATM, which isn't overly interesting. What piqued my interest were the 2 cop cars and the multitude of cops monitoring him. There was a cop behind him, and 1 to either side. They weren't touching him, but it was obvious they were there with him. I have no idea what was going on. The only reason it caught my attention was the cop cars. They were there for quite a while, which is how I saw them when rolling through the footage. I like to make up unrealistic stories to go with it. Sounds like he was caught doing some sort of damage or stiffing somebody on a bill. The cops probably gave him the option of paying up whoever he wronged and escorted him to the ATM to get the money. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.